It's easy to forget that humans are natural pack animals, or I prefer the term tribes. All of our tribes have dispersed. And I think that was done by design, but when we naturally ran in tribes as we're meant to, we would wake up in the morning and do for the tribe that day. Then we would dance together at night in celebration of what we had done together as a tribe. We had identity with ourselves and with our people. And our destiny was fulfilled daily. But all that has changed, and I don't think it was by human design.
About 100 years ago, this big organization with many branches, they wanted to rule the world basically using Britain as a nucleus of a system, an embryo, which also was going to be joined with the US under the Anglo-American establishment, wrote about the kind of culture and the changes of culture over a 100-year period that they would actually design, implement and bring in. H.G. Wells talked about it too. He talked about arenas. He says arenas could be put up across the world for sports, for instance. Now at that time, sports was something that children, school children were into. Adults became adults and got onto adult things. So it was unimaginable at the time that people could actually believe that there was even a need for adult sports and entertainment, never mind having arenas built across the world. But he said we can do this, and foist basically a sports culture for the males using a tribal system. We're all tribal to an extent. That's why we even bother to vote for a tribal leader. The average man was to become more disengaged from his own destiny. As the expert class arose, it was decided that the males would get their outlet, basically, gradually becoming helpless as males through sports. Therefore, they'd have a tribal team they could identify with, cheer them on as they were winning. In their own personal lives, they were getting nowhere. They were getting disenfranchised, in a sense, as experts took over decision-making for them in all kinds of fields. So this was psychology at use, planned before they even implemented the sports. When radio came along, of course, they used that to the maximum. Sports for the men, soaps basically for the women, and then in came television, as I say, with its alpha state, its hypnotic state. And sure enough, around the 1960s, it really took off, and men became glued on Saturday nights to the sports shows.
That's why they pay athletes these fantastic salaries. I was listening to the radio the other day. They just contracted to pay one player on one team $6 million a year. Can you believe this?
And why is that?
It's the Roman circus. What does the emperor do when the people become restive, and when the people are asking questions, and when the people don't like the policies of the emperor? He sends them to the circus. He creates a circus. He builds a giant coliseum. Then he begins to throw the Christians to the lions. And he has great chariot races and football games and basketball games, all to keep the idiots preoccupied with things that don't mean anything in the scheme of the entire world, so that they don't have the time to learn what the truth is, so they don't ever get smart enough to learn how they're being manipulated, so they don't ever question the emperor. That's why they pay a player on a football team or a baseball team $1 million or $2 million or $3 million a year. It is the Roman circus. I know men who don't know anything in the world except who plays third base for the Mets, and they think that's a great accomplishment. And they meet and pat each other on the back and bond and go have cocktails and talk about what this guy that plays third base for the Mets did in last night's game.
it's our human nature to enjoy ourselves. Why shouldn't we enjoy the game? You know, it's entertainment though is a multi-gazillion dollar industry. I don't even think you could put a number on how much money is in the entire entertainment franchise. But we're so far removed from living as a tribe that we don't even notice that this same thing is done with war. It's a distraction from us realizing what's going on.
A nation of people who are willing to send their sons and daughters that they profess that they love to a foreign country to die, and they use the excuse to themselves that they're sending them off to defend our country, and they know damn well that's a lie, are doomed.
Most people want to belong to their peer group. They want to be the same as everyone else when it comes to opinions. In fact, they judge their own personal sanity by bouncing ideas off their neighbors and friends who will answer back and agree on these same topics in kind. It doesn't matter if the topics or what you're given are facts or utter nonsense, as long as everyone agrees at the same time. You'll say, well, I'm sane, and your friends will all agree because they've had the same information given to them. If it's on TV and a famous face says something, then it must be true. He doesn't have to show you facts or anything else. You've been brought up with these faces. That's why they keep these guys on television into their 70s and 80s. You've grown up with this father figure who's on television every night at 6 o'clock, in your house, in your room, staring right at you. He's a father figure. Would he tell you a lie? So you naturally never suspect him. And this same man will lead you through new topics. He'll introduce experts on the topics. They'll have a little summary at the end of every talk, and you are now left with the conclusion that's presented to you. You don't arrive at it, it's given to you, and it's good enough for you. We're programmed today perfectly just like machines. Brzezinski is a master geopolitician. He said himself, the public will shortly be unable to think or reason for themselves. Meaning by that the form of information that was given to them, the type, formulas that were in use then in the 1970s, they'll be unable to think or reason for themselves. Eventually, he said, they will expect the media to do all their thinking and reasoning for them. Well, that's happened today. That's why people today can't think outside of the programming. This is a scientific dictatorship, which Bertrand Russell said, and the Huxleys said, both Aldous and Julian Huxley said they would bring in the scientifically controlled society.
Right. Without our tribes, we get to choose our identity based on which movie franchise we like, what logo we like to wear. And that's an illusion that we have a choice. But it's a good illusion, and it works to make us feel like we're making choices and that those choices define our identity. Us being unaware that there's even an illusion at all. When we're in a tribe, we base our identity because we're not even named on the day of our birth. We're named at our first success moment. When the tribe recognizes that you've done something that is your first identity of yourself, that is an identity of yourself and you within the tribe. So when they call you dances like the river, that's who you are. Rather, what you're called, because it's what the tribe recognized when your individual talents began to shine through. So because of the alienation of being without our people, our tribe, and not having the identity that they recognized about us, I bet the world is a really scary place for many of us. But it's the only world we know. So we never question what's missing from this. We can't question like, hey, what's missing from my identity? Why do I feel scared and alone? We don't think to ask those questions because we don't see a problem with our identity. We have illusions that make us think we know ourselves. And we know ourselves the best we can without our natural tribal people there to help us, assure us of our identity. But don't lose heart, because there is hope. In May of 2011, scientists proved that the heartbeats of tribal members walking across fire in the festivals, their family members and loved ones, their heartbeats synced up exactly. Heartbeats actually synced up throughout the entire festival. They actually put heart monitors on people who were just bystanders passing through, tourists, and they put heart monitors, of course, on the people who were walking through the fire, as well as the firewalkers' families, loved ones, tribal members. And what they found was that the tourists' heartbeats didn't sync, but the family members and the firewalkers synced exactly throughout the entirety of the festival, from beginning to end, not just during the firewalk. Here's one of the graphs that they made. So the firewalker is in blue, the heart rate. The related spectator, who is the wife, is in red. And the green line is the heart rate of the non-related spectator or tourist who wasn't a part of the tribe. Now, with the firewalker and his wife, the blue and the red lines, you can tell that they are beating with complete synchronicity, coherence. Although, since women's hearts beat fewer times per minute than men's, you can see that they're not right on top of each other, but the lines, the patterns, the heart beats in sync with each other, both of them. However, the green line indicating the non-related spectator is not connected. So this indicates that there is a connection. Two heartbeats beat as one when people love each other, when they care about each other. The non-related spectators' heartbeats are not synced. They're not connected together like the tribal people are, clearly. The vertical lines indicate the start of the ritual. The blue line is the firewalker, his own walk, and then the pink line is the walk of the firewalker's brother. You can tell that the wife and the firewalker, when the brother walks, are also synchronized, connected, invested in what happens. Is that perhaps why these people don't get burned? Because their love, their hearts are beating as one, so they transcend their bodies and literally put their love into each other, so that their hearts beating as one put them in a new place, a higher state, that they are protected from harm. Could it be that simple, that all we have to do is love and care for each other as a tribe, and we are transcended, at least in part, when our heart beats together as one? All it takes is to love, and we are protected from harm, because we're no longer our bodies, which is what we think we are. We think we are this body. That's who we think we are. We are a soul. And what is a soul? Well, I would venture to say that a soul is love. Love is the most powerful force in the universe. And it's so easy to achieve. All you have to do is care for someone, and your hearts beat together as one beat. You're no longer two, you're one. And literally, you don't get burned from fire. And I bet you that's the same principle as walking on water, as healing one's body, because you're becoming what you truly are, your true identity, which is the soul. And we can only experience the full potential of our soul by loving another person. When we care for one another, we don't feel burning coals under our feet. But if we think we have the power alone to walk through the fire, then we're fooling ourselves. Now, it's important to note that this love between two people, this motivation that transcends us, that makes our hearts beat as one, this soul is the most powerful force in the universe, love. And that, my friends, is what God is. Our hearts beating as one. You are protected from harm, from fire. You're intuitive with your people, but without the tribe, without the opportunity to have our identity and be around our trusted people, without our tribes, we have a hard time loving. And we've been taught not to love each other, not to trust. And I think that's done by design, because love is so powerful. And our hearts transcend time and space naturally. And it's easy to love. And if it's not easy for you to love, then it's time to do some forgiveness. And forgiveness can be hard. But can't we forgive each other, since now we know what's missing is our people? Isn't it easier now to forgive people for doing the best they can in a world alone, without their tribe, without the opportunity to be their soul, to love, to connect, to be one? We're doing the best we can. We must forgive each other. It is not our fault that we are so far removed from experiencing our full potential. We can't even establish our identity correctly, not the way God intended, not the way that it's naturally supposed to be, without our tribe. So now that our hearts are beating as one, we have started again. Thank you for being with me, my people, my tribe. And let's take this puppy out by listening to some people who don't know each other, but who just randomly walked up to each other on the street and started singing together.
Still wouldn't give me no time of day. All the things that we might say. Oh, I've been down, no sensation. I've been down, I've been wasting all my time of day. Oh, all those things she'd say. So I've been down and I've been wasting. I don't think I've got the patience to say what I need to say. Oh, I don't think that I'll say.
That's good.
Came to do. Tell her that I just don't know. 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 Look, see, now I don't know what's going on, but I'm trying to figure it out. I'ma just hold it down and keep my head up high. And if I do that, then I'ma make it out alright. And if I don't, well, I'ma just try to sleep tonight. And if I can't, then I'ma just get down on my knees and pray that he can take care of me and make everything all gravy. Okay? Well, then I guess it's just something that I gotta do and keep it between me and you. And if you don't understand, then I'ma say it again. Hey, sometimes I just don't know. 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 Woo! I needed that one, man. I appreciate that.
So if you listen carefully to what that song, their improvised song, ends up being about, is that when you don't know what to do, because we're all learning as we go through life, and when you don't know what to do, just love each other. God is going to be there. God came and made an appearance in this song, and that's no accident, because their hearts were beating as one, because they were experiencing the human connectedness that is our tribe. We are souls made of love. Love is the strongest force in the universe, which is God. And we're bringing back the tribe. We're bringing it back. So thank you for watching this video. Thank you for all of your support. And I mean, comments, encouragement. Thank you very much to my Patreon supporters. And oh yeah, I almost forgot. I have a lot of extra footage of my research that I did for this video on firewalking and DNA memory and the intuition of the heart. And that's gonna be available only on Patreon. So if you'd like to check out my Patreon page, feel free. Thank you guys all for being with me in this learning experience and in my heart. Much love to everybody. See you soon.